So this is the new Canon RF 100-300mm f2.8 lens. And we've been out and about in the woods today, taking photos of birds, taking photos of squirrels, just really trying this out with wildlife. Of course, it's super set up for wildlife, for sports. As you can see by the way I'm holding this, it's super, super light. So let's go take some more photos. Let's go see what this can do. Let's talk about it. Let's get excited, because this is an exciting one. Let's go. So we've been using this to take photos of all kinds of wildlife around here. Little birds, squirrels, we've done some bigger birds out on the lake as well. One thing's very clear, the image quality is super, super nice. That's not a big surprise, it's an L lens, so you would expect that kind of thing, but it's very, very sharp. And of course that f2.8 aperture doesn't hurt either. That is a very nice, fast aperture, which means of course it's easy to use a very fast shutter speed with a lens like this, which is great for moving subjects, whether you're doing sport, whether you're doing wildlife. We actually managed to do a little bit of tennis shots as well, which is great to really put this kind of to the test. So I'm back in the office, back in the studio now. I've had a chance to really think about the lens, really marinate on my time with it, run the photo through Lightroom, really get a sense of the kind of sharpness, the detail, and really check it out on a granular level. This is obviously not a particularly cheap lens, it's a very high-end option, but it does tick an enormous number of boxes for a lot of different things, especially sports, wildlife, journalism, and stuff like that. But you are really getting an incredibly versatile and powerful lens here with a very, very good focal range. 100-300 by itself is incredibly useful, and with a very fast aperture, f2.8 constant throughout as well. And then of course this is compatible with the extenders as well. So we did put on the 2x extender, making it a 200-600mm f5.6. Of course you could also use it with something like the R7 to really get a crazy amount of reach out of just this one lens. So it really does fill a lot of needs when it comes to telephoto lenses. Now I was using the lens with the R5 primarily. We had the R5 and the R3. I did obviously use the R3 as well. That's obviously made for this kind of thing. But the R5 is a really interesting camera to try out with this. And the reason I did that is for a couple of different reasons. First of all, the R5 is perfectly capable for wildlife and sports and all that kind of stuff. It's still a very fast camera, but I wanted to see the level of detail with that resolution of that camera. And actually getting the pictures on the computer and being able to really zoom in, the detail here is just unbelievable. It is so clear and so good. You can crop no problem at all. You know, the resolution is amazing and you are getting such fine detail. The actual feathers on the robin here or on these different birds, it's just amazing actually how much it's able to pick out. Now, of course, with a fast f2.8 aperture, the bokeh is going to be something that you want to look really good. And it does, for the most part, it looks really nice. It's nice and smooth. You get great separation of subject and background. That's the same using the 2x extender as well. I did find the bokeh a tiny bit messy in places, but to be fair, where we were shooting was particularly busy in the background. And this was obviously a beta sample as well, so it's worth taking that into consideration. But you know, the background here was pretty busy in terms of branches and leaves, but I think this looks so nice. I really like the look of this. A little bit more sort of spec stuff inside the lens. You've got 4 ultra low dispersion elements. You've got air sphere coating, super spectra coating. So you've got reduced flare, reduced reflections. It just really all adds up to this stunning image. But it's not all just about how the images look coming from this lens. It's also about how the lens feels. The actual usability of this lens is really where this shines, I think. The size of it for a 100-300mm lens is fantastic. You pop a 2x extender on here, which of course we did, and it becomes a 200-600mm lens, f5.6. Still really, really not too big. And the weight of it as well is very impressive. Now, it's not that it's the lightest lens I've ever used, but the balance on it is just lovely. It's actually weighted much more towards the camera, which just makes it just overall so much more comfortable to use when you're out shooting, which is a really important thing to consider, because when you're using a lens like this and you're out and about, wildlife's not a particularly quick photographic genre. You know, you need a bit of patience, need a bit of time. So if you're out and about with this, you might be out for a few hours. It's nice for it to feel comfortable in the hands, as well as give you good images at the end of the day. Something else to bear in mind is this has some image stabilization in here as well. So it's optical image stabilization, 5.5 stops, which you can really feel when you're using this, especially out to 300mm or shooting handheld video. And that really plays a big part in managing to keep that nice and smooth. Add that on to one of the cameras that has in-body image stabilization as well, and you are just having a great time as a handheld telephoto system. It's probably no surprise, but the autofocus is also just incredibly fast. It's very, very accurate as well. I've been using this with the R5 and a bit with the R3 as well. You've got dual nano USM motors in there, so it's just very, very quick, very quiet. Something you'd probably expect at this point from a Canon RF lens like this, especially an L lens like this, but it's really lovely to see that. The hit rate is very, very, very strong. And really, when you're talking about photos that I messed up, it's just because of me, right? You can't really blame it on the autofocus anymore. It's that good. So nothing negative to say about anything like that. It's just a wonderful system to use. Now, it's an entirely internal zoom on the lens, so as you zoom, it's not kind of extending or anything like that. That really helps with things like weather sealing, which is always great to see. You also have an enormous amount of control actually on the lens itself. Of course, the zoom ring is there, which incidentally feels really good actually. It's very, very nicely weighted. But you've also got the control ring, so if you want to set that up for aperture, that's absolutely not a problem at all, or ISO, whatever you want to use it for. I love that on the RF lenses. You've also got a whole host of lens function buttons on the lens. So loads of control right there, super easy, which you can program to be all kinds of different things. And there's a new lens function button towards the camera end of things as well. So loads of control there, which is always, I think, really good to see. Otherwise, you've got the type of controls that you would expect to see on the lens, and they're all just right there, easy to use, easy to change. I just like the usability of this lens a lot. It's very easy to control, but it just feels good in the hands. You know, the size, the weight of it, the balance. It's a great lens, either handheld or on a tripod. Obviously, this lens with this price isn't going to be for everyone, but if you do want a very serious, very, very capable lens that's going to be able to do all kinds of things for you, right? So if you're shooting wildlife, you're shooting sports, journalism, really anything telephoto, this lens is going to be able to do so much for you, and it's just going to enable you to get some fantastic images. If you want to check this lens out for yourself, head over to parkcameras.com. There'll be a link in the description of this video as well, but definitely one that it is worth just having a look at, because this is something really special. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe as well, because there's new content all the time. I'll see you next time, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.